All right, so so I love talking to teenagers. I love talking to adults, but this is my favorite group of people. People who care about students, who work with in youth ministry and helping students come closer to God. I am so excited for this conference. I think this is really cool how we've come together and collaborated on this, and I'm thankful for you guys showing up and being a part. And so as I talk about healthy teams, I'm going to talk about some 5 things here in just a second that I want you to kind of evaluate your own heart and where you're at and where maybe your team, your student ministry team that you work with is on these different categories. So when I get to that here in just a second. But when I was preparing to come up and talk to you guys, I thought, I was thinking like last week, our staff got together and we did fantasy football. Anybody fantasy football? Yeah? You already had your draft, of course, because first game was the other night. But I was sitting there doing fantasy football, picking like the best available. I had my list, and I look around and the rest of the staff has these papers. I mean, our children's pastor had 5 or 6 pages full of reviews and orders of quarterbacks and running backs. And you guys are like that? Yeah? Some of you? I'm just like, best available, there. Let's do this. As long as they're not on the Cowboys. And then we're good. Come on now. All right. But I was thinking about the fantasy football team. And my team ended up pretty well. I think they're going to be great. But as I was thinking of student ministry and a fantasy student ministry team, like the best of the best, were sitting in front of me right now. You guys are the ones who showed up when you got the invite to come to CoLab and waste your Friday night and your Saturday morning and get out of bed early to come back. And I'm excited that I get a chance to talk to you guys and to just share these things. And hopefully this will lead you into some discussion as when I get done talking, that maybe will help you to see how this year could be different for you. Maybe something could be draw you closer to a place of better service to students and to each other, because this is important. And I like this idea of talking to you guys from different churches, because it's an easy. It should make it easier for you to be able to draw things from each other. Maybe it's different settings, different styles of church are represented. And the bottom line is here, you guys impact us. And by us, I mean student ministry, youth pastors, paid people. You guys really impact us in a big way. 3 years ago, I had back surgery, and I was laid up and in the hospital, couldn't move. And the people that I remember coming to see me are my student ministry leaders. Now, there were students that came. There were pastors, of course, because they're paid to come. But student ministry workers, you guys, this was in Ohio, but you guys are the ones that show up and care for us as well. And so I appreciate each of you. And I just thank you from the bottom of my heart for your faithfulness and for your dedication in pouring into students, and in whatever area it may be, teaching a class or a small group, or just showing up to help keep things rolling, or maybe you're a volunteer that leads your whole ministry. I appreciate each of you, and I thank you so much. I also look back at times in student ministry where the kids are making out in the back corner while worship's going on, and there's always one of you guys who's got to be the one to step up and go over there and get in between that mess, or encourage them in some way to stop until afterward when they're outside when the pastor drives by. But you guys make an impact in a big way, and I really appreciate you. And I want to encourage you to be a part of a healthy team, and I want to give you some things. If I was drafting a fantasy team, which it's going to be in this room right here, I know this because you care about students and you're here. These are some things that I would hope that would be a part of, and if I had my draft sheets, these are the things that would be on my draft sheets. Are you with me? If you're with me, go like this. All right? So on your paper that's on your table, the 5 things they all start with love the. And so one of you from each table should probably write this down so that when you have your discussion, you can look back at those, or you just steel traps up there, you can remember them. But the first one is this. If you look at your paper, it's love the gospel. If I'm drafting, number 1 overall is going to be adults who love the gospel, who love the fact Jesus came, lived a perfect life, and died on the cross for our sins. He paid the price for us. and loving the gospel, loving the message that Jesus paid the price for us, and that we can share that with students and draw them closer to this relationship with God, a God who loves them, a God who cares for them, and a God who paid the price for them. And so that's my number one, man. If you love the gospel and you love the message of redemption, that Jesus paid the price for us, that's it. You're number one on my draft board. The second one is loving the family. Loving the family. Youth ministry is not just about students. And I don't know, in 15 years in student ministry, back in the day when I first started, it was all about, man, I gotta make this the most fun. I gotta relate to the students, and that's it. I don't really care about family. I don't care about what's going on out there. I just want to impact these students. Well, as times evolved and as I've gotten a little smarter, I understand that we need adults who love not just the students, but love the families. You may be a small group leader of a student who's going through some stuff, and you can connect with the parent or a brother or sister or aunt or uncle or grandma or grandpa that would help them as they're going through it. And so I like to think of it as coming alongside the family. And so that's number two, loving the gospel, loving the message that Jesus died for us, but also loving their families. It's taking time to pour into them, not just the students, but the families, and impacting them on a broader scale. I can't tell you how many times I've sat in a hospital with student leaders because a student had something happen to them, and sat there with a parent or a grandparent or an aunt or uncle, and we're able to minister to them, and it makes a big difference to the family, not just that student, but it impacts in a big way. And all of that just kind of expands. And so when you think about this as a student ministry leader, how is your love for the gospel? How is your love for families? Kind of think of that on a personal scale, and then think of your ministry team and go, okay, how well are we doing at impacting the family? The third one on your paper is loving the team. And this is big, the team, the ministry team, those who you're serving with. I've had a lot of different experiences, some good, some bad, with student ministry teams that were extremely united. They cared for one another, but I also had some instances where adults didn't really like each other. I'm just here to do my thing. I'm just here to lead my Sunday school class, and I don't really care what happens the rest of the time. Loving the team, and understanding that we're better together. Ministry leaders, when we understand that, man, when we unite as leaders, and we come together to help impact students and impact their families, it's much better when we're all united, when we're on the same page. I've had the unfortunate incidents of having to talk to an adult who's like, well, I don't really care that you're going this way. I'm going to do this thing, and I'm going to do it at the same time that you're doing it, and I'm just going to try and get students to come this way. This is not here, of course, but in a church that I was in Kansas. And I think, man, that was so tough because it just rips the unity of the group and the unity of the leadership. And so I would hope that you would think about this in your personal life and then in your team. How well are you working together and loving each other, doing things not just for students, not just for their families, but for each other as well, understanding that unity, working together is a good thing. So loving the team, loving the idea of being a part of a team, not just being the one that's talking up front or being the one that's leading the class or leading the small group, but that everybody's important and we're all working towards that same goal of impacting and influencing students and drawing them closer to a God who loves them and a God who cares about them. You still with me? All right, we're good. So then, loving the gospel, loving the family, loving the team, loving the journey. The journey, and when I say journey, I'm thinking of like students that are on this journey from, for us, it starts in 6th grade and then goes up to 12th grade. And in my time in student ministry, it's really cool to look back on students coming into the student ministry in 6th grade, and they're so immature and they're so raw and they're just like crazy, and you can't get their attention, and everybody gets frustrated with them, but then you look, and maybe if you stay in long enough where you see that they're over here in the 12th grade and they're graduating and they're a completely different student than they were sometimes, right? Sometimes they're the same, as in they're still immature and they're still doing the dumb stuff. But you look at this process, they're on this journey of drawing closer to a God who loves them, and you're influencing them by small groups and Bible studies together and fun times together and large group stuff, and maybe they're a part of different ministries and you're seeing them grow in this process. The one that really sticks out in my heart and my mind is a boy named Mikey. All right, I know that's whatever. Mikey was in 6th grade, and he was the craziest little dude. He was the smallest. He looked like he was still in elementary school, and he came in, and he was just crazy. He was off the walls, running everywhere, and we couldn't get him to sit still. We couldn't get him to focus on anything. He wouldn't listen during the talk time. He would throw stuff. He was just crazy, and everybody, nobody wanted him in their group or in their class because we just couldn't get a handle on him. And as he grew and as he learned and as he grew closer to God, by the time he was a senior, he had been in this worship team. He was one of the best guitar players I've ever heard, and he totally changed from that 6th grade, and he was on this journey. And I look back at that and go, man, that's what student ministry is about, right? We watch them go from one thing to another. We watch them accept Christ a lot of times, and then they learn and they grow in that walk with Christ, and you're able to help and shape and mold them and come alongside them and come alongside their family, and you see a lot of stuff happen in their lives, and that's exciting to me. And so if I'm rating and I'm going, well, I want ministry leaders on my fantasy ministry team, people who love the journey. It's not just about the perfection, right, or the closer to, they're never all the way there, but it's not just about, oh, well, I just want seniors who have already gone past that, but it's loving this process, this journey that these students are on, because we're all on this journey, right? Like, we're never complete. We're never all the way there. I'm perfect now. I know all about the Bible. I know all about God, and this is just the way it is. Once you reach my level, no, it's not like that, right? We watch them grow, and we watch them learn, and we help them, we come alongside them. So loving the journey is a big thing. Hey, thank you. My group knows that I sweat a lot, and it's not that I'm nervous. I'm just fat, right? All right. So loving the team, loving the journey, and the last one is this, loving the vision. There's 4, 5, 6, 7 churches represented, and each of us have a different vision, but it's pretty similar, right? That we're reaching students, we're helping them to grow, and when you get into your discussion, you can kind of talk about this, but loving the way, the direction that your student ministry is headed. Maybe it's your church as a whole, the direction that they're headed, but as you think about this, and you think about the kind of leader that you are, and where you're at on each one of these different things, loving, how much do you love the gospel, and how much is that oozing out of your talks and oozing out of your small group time and your one-on-one time with students or with families? How much are you loving loving the families that are represented in your student ministry? Where are you at on that? Where's your team at? Like, how effective are we at that? Loving each other, loving the team, loving the people that you're working with. This journey and this process. How many of you have ever gotten to a point like, I know Matt talked about laying flat on the floor in his room, and I think about this a lot of times in student ministry where we had a bad night or things don't go right, and you go, I am done with this. I'm just not even going to come back next week, right? Like, I can't even take it. Loving this journey and understanding that one bad night doesn't make it totally bad, right? I can pick myself back up, trust that God's got something in store for it, and keep rolling with it. Loving this journey, loving the vision that the student ministry has and the direction that you're flowing, and helping, doing everything that you can to help make that vision succeed. And so as I wrap up here, I want you to think about these things personally, and then as a team. And then the questions that are on your paper there, maybe there's one that you think, oh, a fantasy team should involve this. Or maybe there's one that you're really strong at. I want you to kind of think about your strengths and maybe your team's strengths. Well, we're really good at setting the environment. And so our, loving each other and helping or loving the family. Maybe there's something that you do that you that you can help somebody around you at your table to be better at one of these areas. All of you guys have all of these qualities. I'm positive of this. But maybe there's some that you're struggling with, or maybe that you're really good at, that we can learn and glean from each other. So I just challenge you to think about this. Where are you, and where is your team?